Morning, Facebook land. Gus Rickard here, doing another 7 Habits of Healthy People. This is habit number 1. Follow your inner guidance. And I've skipped a couple here because this topic is fresh on my mind, so I wanted to speak about it now because I'm feeling inspired. So there are still 2 more habits. This is number 1 because it's probably the most important thing you can do in order to be healthy, physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually healthy, is to follow your inner guidance or your intuition. The reason I use the term inner guidance rather than intuition is that there are, I believe, more ways to follow inner guidance than simply the intuitive body felt sense of intuition or instincts. Hey John, morning Olivia, welcome guys. So I just did, last week I was at a vision quest all week in the mountains, and the vision quest is a Native American tradition where traditionally once a year you go off into the mountains, and the mountains represent the spiritual world. And you're looking for a vision of your future or a vision of your life, and you're in silence. You're by yourself. You don't have any food or water for those 4 days, so there's no distractions, and you're very much inspired by nature and by what's going on around you. So I'm going to get to some ways of tapping in with inner guidance or intuition, but I just wanted to speak a little bit about what it is first. And the first thing I want to talk about is the mind, the conscious versus unconscious mind, or conscious versus subconscious. Morning. I always go back to the definition of mind that I got from the book Mind, A Journey to the Heart of Being Human by Dan Siegel. He says, mind is an embodied and relational process that regulates the flow of energy and information. So mind is an embodied process. There's a lot more to mind than just our conscious thinking mind. And what a lot of research shows, there are differing estimates, but the conscious mind can take in somewhere between 8 and 2,000 bits of information a second, whereas the unconscious mind is taking in somewhere between 20 million and 400 billion bits of information every second. So depending on the which you go by, the unconscious mind is potentially up to 10 billion times more powerful and has 10 billion times more processing power than the conscious mind. So when we make all our decisions based purely on rational thought, then we're missing out on a huge amount of the information that's available to us. And we've kind of been hijacked in a way by our cultural mindset and by this masculine logical way of thinking that puts the rational mind up on a pedestal and says, well, now we can figure out all these things using maths and using science, and we have logic, and we've almost, due to doing that, we've stopped listening to our inner guidance and to our creative, intuitive, and instinctual intelligence. So when the unconscious mind speaks to us with feelings. It's not a rational thing. It doesn't use words and numbers and stuff like that. It speaks to us with feelings and symbols and archetypes. But our body will often know. I'm sure everyone's had the experience where you just know something isn't right for you. You know that a relationship's no longer right, or that a job is no longer right, and your rational mind will try and argue and say, oh, but we're really in love, or like we have so many great things together, and like she's really nice and she does all these things for me, and whatever, but you just know it's not right. Or with the job, you're getting a great salary, it's what you've always dreamed of, but it just doesn't feel right because your feeling is going off potentially 10 billion times greater input than what your conscious mind is using. It goes deeper than that. And I learned a lot from the Vision Quest and from these Native American traditions, which are really ancient traditions, and are just steeped in so much wisdom. There's an idea in quantum physics, or a theory called quantum entanglement or phase entanglement, and I think it's actually been proven. There's been a lot of research into it, where they get two quantum particles, and they correlate them. So they might be, if they're existing together, if they're entangled for a time, and they start to spin together, and they can measure the spin by the light that's emitted from these particles. They can remove the particles to any distance. They can put one particle on the other side of the planet, or it could be Pluto or in another galaxy, it doesn't really matter. And when they change the spin of one particle, the other particle changes spin instantly. So we know that within space-time, the fastest anything can travel is the speed of light, but these quantum experiments show us that there's something moving faster than the speed of light, or that it actually shows that there is no signal needed. That means that everything is connected non-locally, and non-local means that it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It's beyond space-time. And this is kind of a universal law in my understanding, my opinion, that everything, when we correlate with something for some amount of time, that we become entangled in some sense. And in the Vision Quest, as I said, you're on a mountain, and the mountain represents the spiritual world. And you initiate the Vision Quest by going into a sweat lodge, and the sweat lodge is the womb of Mother Earth. So you enter the sweat lodge, you sweat. In the sweat lodge you have rocks. There are 28 volcanic rocks that will be in a fire outside the sweat lodge. There's actually 29. 28 of them come into the sweat lodge to give heat, kind of 7 or 14 at a time. So you do a couple of rounds, like a sauna. Whoever's pouring, whoever's running the sweat lodge will pour water on the rocks, and you sing and get deep into the mother of the earth, the womb of Mother Earth. And then there's one rock always in the fire, and they make sure this rock is kept super hot. So you're always pushing coals onto that rock and making sure that rock in the fire stays super duper hot. Because if that rock cools down, then the rocks in the fire, in the sweat lodge, will cool down, because those rocks have been entangled. My point is that what this proves that there is this non-local interaction that happens within life. It's been called, in Hindu mythology, they call it the Akashic field, they call it the Akashic records, which is basically a compendium of all information from all of human existence. There's a physicist, Ervin Laszlo, who wrote a book called Akasha, called Science and the Akasha, and he describes it as the Akashic field. And he brings together a lot of different theories and creates his integral theory of everything, which kind of connects everything. To me, it made a lot of sense. But he talks about this non-local field as a holographic field. Holographic meaning that all the information from the whole field is stored in every part of that field. And this field has kind of tendrils, I guess, or this field exists beyond space-time. So any information that is anywhere in past, present, or future is kept at every point of the field. And so this is how these particles will move. So when you look at it like this, you realize that we are actually connected to everything. And whether this is too far-fetched to you or not, you can just, remember that there is 10 billion times more processing power in your unconscious mind. But I believe it goes beyond that, and we actually have access to all information from all of space-time. And this is how clairvoyance and psychics and different types of divination work, like water diviners that use a divining stick or whatever you call it. People that do you can use a pendulum to ask for information from things, or to test energy from food. All of these old ways of intuiting information are connecting to the Akashic field, or the non-local field, or the 0 point field. It's been called so many different names. It's been called the super consciousness, or infinite intelligence, or the Tao. So my whole point is that we have access to so much more information than what our logical, rational mind is capable of doing. The conditioned mind is conditioned. It's only capable of doing what it's always done before. It's not capable of doing anything new, because that requires creative thought. So in order to actually change things about our life or about ourselves, we have to have access to our intuition. And there are a lot of different ways you can do it. This is super important for anyone that has any kind of health challenge at all, because if you're being hijacked by your rational mind, you're only going to go around in circles. You're only going to keep trying things that you've always tried. Hey Dan, hey Barbara. And you're never going to achieve anything new. In order to achieve anything new, you have to step into your unconscious mind, into feeling, into creativity, into the Akashic field, or the 0 point field, or the Tao, or whatever you want to call it. So there are different ways you can do this. I first learned this from a mentor of mine, Paul Check, who taught about muscle testing yourself. So you can muscle test yourself. You can do a little blink like that. This is going to be really hard to do with my phone. I put it like that, and you can just test how much strength you have. And if you say a true statement, like "My name is Angus Rickard," there's a strong link there. If you say something false, like "I am a green goblin," it becomes weak. And this takes a little bit of practice sometimes, but it's a very simple way to ask yes/no questions of your body and move beyond the conscious mind. Paul also taught me a soul connection technique, which is simply where you ask to connect with your soul and ask it to show you what a yes or a no feels like. This is a really powerful way of connecting. There are simpler ways as well that everybody can do anytime, which is just like journaling, free writing. If you just put aside half an hour in the morning, it's best to do as soon as you wake up, so you haven't got all these thoughts going around and whatnot, and just write. Don't stop writing. Don't let the pen stop. Even if you're just writing, "Oh shit, I don't know what to write anymore, I'm running out of stuff to write," and write the same thing for 50 lines, eventually something will start coming out. This is a way of connecting with your unconscious, and you can start to ask questions of your unconscious mind, or of the field, or whatever source of information it is that you're accessing beyond your conscious mind. There are lots of other ways, like just getting into your body. Yoga and meditation and Tai Chi, all these Eastern practices that are more yin types of exercise, more like Hatha and yin yoga, that actually slows your heart rate and slows your breath rate down. They're going to allow you to connect with your body more. And when you're connected with your body, you can feel what it's telling you, then you're connected with your unconscious mind, or the field. Holotropic breath work, or rebirthing breath work, where you're doing a particular breathing technique that super oxygenates your brain and allows you to access the deep recesses of your unconscious mind. There are so many different ways you can, as I said, you can get a little pendulum. You can ask a pendulum to show you a yes and a no, and you'll start to get spinning in different ways. There's lucid dreaming and envisioning and shamanic journeying. These are all ways of connecting with the field, with your unconscious mind. So that's my thoughts for today, guys. I hope this has been useful to everyone. This is something that's helped me just so much to understand my own body, my own healing process, and why I'm here. And it's something that I use every day, because we are just so trained to trust the logical, rational mind and trust sources outside of ourselves, to trust doctors and articles and studies and all these things are great sources of information, but they're also very general and not specific to your needs in the moment. So play around with that. Shoot me a message if you want to know more information, if you need any help. It can often be really tricky doing the muscle testing and the soul connection stuff in the beginning, but you'll get it eventually. So have an awesome day, guys. Happy Tuesday.